Anti Jiu-jitsu. Is that a real thing, or is it just something that old people say because they can't keep up with the young people? Let's find out. All right, guys, welcome back. My name is Bill Jones. I'm the head instructor of top-level martial arts in beautiful downtown Cuyahoga Falls. You're watching Professor's Corner. Guys, I'm here with Tommy today. Tommy's a purple belt and a youth instructor. Also fills in on some of the adult classes. Been training for, how long have you been training?
About 9 years, I think.
9 years. And people, as an instructor, people ask you questions all the time. And the one question you got was about what?
Anti Jiu-jitsu.
Anti Jiu-jitsu. And so he actually came up to me because the person was like, "Hey, what is Anti Jiu-jitsu?" And he's like, "I don't know." He's like, "I don't know what that means." So Anti Jiu-jitsu, it's a term I've heard a lot actually. Anti Jiu-jitsu is, first of all, like, what is jiu-jitsu, right? That's really the question. So to know what anti jiu-jitsu is, you have to kind of define jiu-jitsu. And I don't know, like I see jiu-jitsu as like two separate paths that you could think about, like self-defense and then sport. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. And I really don't think anti jiu-jitsu exists in self-defense jiu-jitsu because what do I mean by that is, like, anti jiu-jitsu is like just choosing not to engage in the match properly, but like in self-defense it's not really like, am I choosing to engage in it? Because if I get to make the choice, I just won't, right? Like,
you don't have to fight. My
joke is that normally adjusted people don't get into fights on the regular, so like if you have the option to not fight, don't fight, right? It's a lot of easy ways to get dead if you get into fights, and let's not even engage in that if we can avoid it. Not that jiu-jitsu can't be used for it absolutely can. I just feel like anti jiu-jitsu is not a thing that we're talking about in the moment of a fight. Okay. Have you ever had like a situation where like you're rolling and there's a person who just doesn't seem to want to engage?
Yes.
Yeah, that I think is like the antithesis of anti jiu-jitsu.
Okay.
Master Sauer actually talks about anti jiu-jitsu. Pedro Sauer, for those of you who don't know, Master Pedro Sauer, 8th degree black belt, the coral belt. He talks about it in the context of learning jiu-jitsu. So I see some people like look at it and say, "Oh, I don't like that technique because that technique is anti jiu-jitsu," and I don't think that's what's supposed to be meant by it. And what he says is, like, when you're first learning jiu-jitsu, especially, like, you should let people do moves to you. Like, even if you see it coming, like, you're like, "Man, this guy's clearly trying to grab my arm, but I don't know why." How are you ever going to know why or what they're trying to do to you if you don't just give them the arm? And like, I get it. Like, you also want to see if your stuff works, and you want to be able to do it against resistance. But like, his point is, let them do lots of moves to you. Feel what's going on, so that the next time you can be like, "Okay, this guy's trying to do that arm bar. Don't let him have it." But you know what it is at least.
Absolutely.
Instead of like just never letting them have your arm, and then one day you get up against maybe a guy who's bigger and stronger than you, and you don't get to pull your arm out, and you have no follow-up to it because you never experienced it before.
Right,
or you have no escapes to that position because you never allowed yourself to get there.
That makes sense.
Another good example of that, that Eddie Bravo years and years ago, probably 13, 14 years ago now, did a video on, is like, big guys tend to have anti-jiu-jitsu when it comes to being on the bottom. Like, big guys will like
push away.
They'll just always try to be on top, right?
Yeah.
Like they'll get on their knees and wrestle from their knees and always play top and never play guard, and so they have shitty guards. And Eddie Bravo years ago, one of my favorite videos he did was that big guys should have the best guards, because you can choose to be on top, and you can even like crappily work sweeps, but like you get the option of like, "Oh, look, I can pull this arm and it's mine now." Like, you can force yourself into good positions until the finesse comes. And that was Eddie Bravo's point, is like, if you're a big guy, play guard, because you can always be on top. And then once you get good at sweeping people, now you're a big guy and people can't hold you down. Because that's like I'm sure we've all seen it, like the big guys who can't get off their back, they're just like stuck on their back like a turtle on a turtle shell, and it's like ugly. You're just like, So I think that's what's supposed to be meant by anti jiu-jitsu, is like allowing a lot of things to happen to you so you can learn. But I think what happens, and tell me if you've seen this, like maybe you're trying something new. Like, a good example that I can always think of is like the guy who, like, you're in a seated guard and they just want to try to run around you as fast as they can.
Yes.
Right? Like, they're not really engaging, but they're not really disengaging. They're just like, their only move is just run around you, right? Like, again, though, it's like, are they really participating? You know what I mean? Like, and like sometimes you'll even lay down and be like, okay, now will they come to me? And like, then they won't come to you then. And I've seen like higher level grappling matches. Emil Fisher, who is a Cleveland area grappler, I've seen him like in Detroit, like literally laying on his back, laying flat, and people won't engage with him. And it's like, look, he's really good. I get it. I've been tapped by him twice in competition. Like, I get it. But like, God, I'm going to engage that match every time.
Yeah.
Because like, I'm going to learn something. And that's what I think Pedro Sauer specifically meant by Anti Jiu-jitsu. It's like, I'd rather go into that match and do my best and like actually try and lose than to avoid it entirely and tie.
Yeah. There's no fun in that.
No, it's not fun to tie. And like a lot of guys, like they think that that's like winning, like Brendan Schaub versus Cyborg Abreu. Do you remember that Metamoris years ago?
I did not see that.
No. So Brendan Schaub basically went in saying, I don't want to get submitted by Cyborg Abreu.
And that was his win to him?
And his win was just literally not engaging in the match. Anytime Cyborg would pull guard, Brendan would just run away, pull his leg out and run away. And it's like, yeah, you didn't lose the match, but you still lost because you didn't engage. And now a referee's going to make a decision and you're not going to get it.
You didn't
right?
test yourself at all. You didn't.
It'd be the same as if like you and I were like created like a 2-on-2 basketball league, and like Michael Jordan and Shaquille O'Neal enter the league, and you and I are like, we're never losing to them. It's never going to happen. And then like when it comes time for the game, we just refuse to like walk out on the court.
That's a win.
That's a win, right? We didn't lose. We didn't lose to them. They didn't score 1 point on us. Did you see that? But like the ref's still going to go, okay, well, I guess you guys lose.
It's a
you
weird
know,
mentality to have.
Yeah, like that's anti-basketball, right? Like
that makes sense. Yeah.
Jesse Enkamp, the karate nerd, did a video not too long ago where he went to a competition, and his brother, by the way, is a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and very good. So he got some training from his brother and learned some stuff, and plus he's been doing martial arts all his life. And he goes to this grappling match as a white belt for one, and then like wanted to prove that like you could avoid jiu-jitsu. And it's so he just like ran away from the ring, like just wouldn't engage, and like it's like, okay, I don't know what you're proving. I bet I could go to a karate competition and just bounce away from you constantly, and you're not going to score on me either. And what am I supposed to say? Karate doesn't work? Like, that's not the point. Yeah, if you don't engage it doesn't work. But that's the whole point of self-defense, right?
Yeah.
Like, if they're all supposedly to be for self-defense, well, none of them work if we're not engaged, because we're not in a fight anymore.
Yeah.
You know, like, that's, of course I can't punch you in the face if you're 25 feet away, but why would I be?
Right.
You know, like, same thing. I can't double leg you over there, but why would I try?
Practicing being in those bad situations gives you the knowledge to stay away from them if you need to.
100%, right? Like, how confident you've I'm sure by now, 9 years of training, you've rolled some randos before. Yes. Some people who don't have any training or anything. Yes. It's like playing with a child.
It literally is.
You know,
it's like the kids' classes.
Like your friends don't want to wrestle you anymore. Well, your friend is Doug, so he's been training just as long as you. So
one of my friends is still up for it.
Yeah. But like most of them are like, nah. So like, so I guess where's that leave us with this? To me, it's like anti-jiu-jitsu is anything you're doing that is actively avoiding grappling, right?
A weird thing to do when you're in grappling.
Right. You know, like, okay, cool, you're not going to get beat that way. But also not just a strategic retreat, right? Because there's a lot to be said for
that.
I'm trying to attack your leg, maybe from a seated guard, and you're like, I don't like this, so you like pull your leg away, but you re-engage, right? A tactical retreat to re-engage in some way and continue the match, as opposed to a tactical retreat where you just run 40 miles away and you're like, you can't get my legs now.
Tactically retreat the entire time.
Yeah, but I would say before you start doing that, you should actually let people leg lock you a little bit. You should be like, what is he doing to my leg here? I can't tell you how many times I've done that, and even like in certain matches, like when I know I'm outclassed, like the first time I rolled Emil Fisher, actually, there's a moment where like if you watch the match, like I'm just sitting there staring at him because like I know I'm caught, and I'm like,
but you're like,
what's he doing? Like you know, I had no chance of winning this match anyway. He's just way more experienced, if nothing else, you know, like and he's also exceptionally good, but like, you know, like I want to see what he did. I want to remember that so that one, it doesn't happen again. Two, maybe I can do it now.
You can steal it.
Yeah, right?
That's
Like,
always
what's
good.
the point of competing if you're not going to learn?
I've just rolling in here a ton of times at the academy where somebody's going to put me in something, and I'm like, I'll literally out loud be like, hold on, where are you going with this? Like,
Yeah.
I always want to find out what's going to happen. So that way, like you said, I could avoid it next time, or I could use it myself.
Yeah. Or even learn how to counter it,
Yeah.
right? Because, like, if the highest form of jiu-jitsu, Master Sauer says this too, like, when you have defense, you have resistance. So imagine, like, someone's trying an armbar and all I'm doing is holding. That's just pure resistance. And to some degree, you need to resist, right?
Yeah.
Like you can't just fall down every time. You
go
can't just
ragdoll.
give him your arm
Yeah.
every time. But, like, the next one is escape. So now maybe you're like, okay, I'll hold on, and when he pulls hard, I'll pop into a hitchhiker and escape. And then the last form of that is counter. And it's like, oh, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go halfway through my hitchhiker escape, switch into a cross ashi, and end up in an inside heel hook. You know, like that's what jiu-jitsu is supposed to, like, I don't want to say supposed to be about, but, like, when you see something like that, you're like, chef's kiss, right? Like that is just pretty to see.
Yeah, that's a good evolution of it.
You know, like, and I think there's also, like, the type of jiu-jitsu that's also pretty to see, which is like, wow, that person had dominant control over that other person the entire time. They had no chance, right? Like, that's awesome to see too.
Yeah.
So, like, those are the two versions of that, I would say. But yeah, anti jiu-jitsu. So, like, yeah, if, like, I'm just holding on here, like, or like, even, like, someone will, like, try and escape, and they're, like, the arm's extended, and you're just sitting there holding it, looking at them, like, moving around like an idiot, but their arm is just completely isolated and locked out.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, well, you can keep trying your move, I guess, but, like, probably better off just to tap and then move on. Or even, like, tap and say, okay, you definitely have that. Can you let me work the escape, and now we can move on, you know, and then just start from there. So in the end, like, is anti jiu-jitsu something that old people just say? I don't think so.
Yeah.
I do see people use it as an excuse sometimes when they can't handle the athleticism that sometimes exists in jiu-jitsu. And what do I think about that? That might be a completely different discussion. But what we're doing is a physical endeavor. And I think that while you shouldn't depend on your athleticism, that shouldn't be the only thing. Technical ability should lead the way. You can't help it if you're like Joey Deal, for anybody at The Real Deal on Instagram. Bellator fighter, phenomenal Bellator fighter, phenomenal jiu-jitsu competitor, just won ADCC Open somewhere. Like, if you roll him, he's a yoga master.
So he's gonna.
So like, he doesn't even know he's using athleticism, right? Like, to him, it's not athletic. It's just very good control of his body, which is kind of what athleticism is.
Yeah.
Is like being able to move through a range of motion that's maybe more than what your average person can do. But the more you do this, and the more you get it into, especially like you start competing, and then you're competing at higher levels, they're all athletes, right? Like, these are not your normal person. So are some of the things they're doing required? No. But does that make them anti jiu-jitsu? No, I don't think so. I don't think it's anti jiu-jitsu just because you can easily move your shoulder through a range of motion to escape an armbar, let's say. I don't think that's anti jiu-jitsu. I think that's just good body awareness, kinesthetic awareness, flexibility goes into it. Everybody yells at the strong guy, right? Oh, this guy's strong. No one yells at the flexible guy.
Yeah.
Or the little guy who's fast. Like, oh wow, look how quick he's able to move through those movements. As long as the movements are technical, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. And I don't think it's anti jiu-jitsu.
I don't know.
So I think I don't know. What do you think? When do you feel it becomes anti jiu-jitsu based on everything we just talked about?
I think just based off that, I would say what you said earlier about somebody just trying to not do anything the whole time you're rolling them, just not trying to advance their position or submit you. They're just trying to keep you away.
Yeah. And
anti jiu-jitsu is a weird word, I feel like.
I think it is. I think it's hard to define, just like athleticism, right? Like, when am I using athleticism versus technique? Like, athleticism is, well, maybe all the wedging wasn't in place and you were slippery, so I was able to just move quick and pull out, right? Like, but like, that sounded great. But like, that doesn't necessarily make it wrong either, right? Like, it can be better, it can be more efficient, But if you're being as efficient as you humanly can and you also happen to be athletic, I don't know. I don't think it's a bad thing. Is it something you can teach? No. And that, like, I can't teach someone athleticism. That's something you either have or you don't, or you develop, you know, but I can teach you technical ability. So I think maybe that's where it is too. Like, you should be able to teach what you're doing as well.
That makes sense, yeah.
So, you know, that's just kind of free form. I don't know. I didn't have any real set answers in my head as we came in. But hopefully this is helpful to you guys. If you like this kind of video, do me a favor, just subscribe. You know, we're back. I'm back, I should say. I'll try to have more guests on, like Tommy here or whoever. He just happens to be in the academy middle of the day, so I'm like, you're doing this. Let's go. So, guys, if you need anything, let me know. Do me a favor, comment below. It really helps the channel. Let's see if we can grow past 2,000 subscribers. I'll talk to you later.